I'm John and welcome back to my Lair of Action Figures. So today's episode 2 of YoJo June 2026 and oh god, this was really bad. So without further ado, let's jump into it. So where do we start? So of course this is the new person who's presenting the YoJo June. So of course there's some interesting stuff about Cobra Commander going back up for pre-order, but nothing was mentioned during the live stream, or I missed it. And yeah, there will be 3 pre-orders going up, so yeah, that's pretty nice of them sending it out. And let's have a look at what are these 3 pre-orders. So of course the first one is going to be the haul with Grand Slam, and that's not a bit of a surprise, but I do think it's a bit disappointing because there's some other figures who are out there that we know that are coming, that there's already the codes out there, and I already talked about it, and these haven't shown up. Of course, we still have 2 episodes to go along, so of course these are print screens from the live stream, so here we're going to have a look. So the haul has a very interesting presentation, looks pretty neat, does have a lot of the basic features that the original one had. The lever over here moves. Of course, I didn't. I have to see if I can do directly do a video while they're playing it, and then I can see everything. But again, the blue lasers, okay, why not? Hard to say if that's something that I really like, but it's a nice little feature to add to it, and of course we have the figure. So second one that they did is, of course, we are getting the Vamp Mark II. So this is an interesting part of it, because we got the 3 digital vendors who are now going up for live stream, and of course you bet the other ones digital vendors are going to be the ones who were name revealed. So I mean, I'm jumping forward into the video, but again, I don't understand why you're going on this route. So of course it is nice to know that this one is going up for pre-order. The vehicle looks pretty good, but again, it's basically a repaint of the original figure that you have, that you should paint it up. The gear is the same. There's a few little extra accessories. They did an allusion to the Snowcat, so of course it looks like they're going to be reusing afterwards. I have no problem with it. Hasbro wants to save money, and of course this is the way to do it. So yeah, good for them. I must say I'm looking forward to this vehicle, so it's going to be interesting to know when it's going to be coming out, but I guess it will be coming out pretty soon, because again, a lot of stuff is getting ready to ship. But like I said, I do have a bit of a worry, and I can understand why also we are not getting any kind of HasLab this year, because if you're going to be making vehicles at over $100 a piece, it would have been very hard to be able to get the HasLab, and of course the his tanks are coming at the end of the year, so it does make a lot of sense. Now let's jump on to the third one, and of course you guessed who it is. It is Action Man swinging into action. So of course I did a few pictures. I decided to select some of the print screens. As you can see, we have also Wekendo's weapon over here, so yeah, a lot of reused bits and pieces for the character. And of course, I would be kind of curious to see what the figure gives. But there is some information that I'm going to be talking towards the end of the video regarding the pre-order timelines and where these products are going to be available. And there's a lot of stuff to discuss. Of course, when you be watching this video, the pre-orders will have already gone live. So yes, that's the part of it. So of course, over here you can see that they decided to put a bit everything that you get with it, but there is the missing gun for Wekendo, who's not here. So I don't understand why it's not featured over here, so that's a bit weird. Of course, here is the presentation. So if you know Action Man, this is the line that didn't sell because it was pretty crappy, let's be honest, and I have a boatload of them and I don't know what to do with them. I can't even burn them to keep myself warm because I will intoxicate myself, but nobody technically wants these figures. So If you're a fan of them, I'm sorry about it, but let's be honest, they were pretty bad compared to the original Action Mans made under Palitoy, of course, through the licensing of Hasbro. So yeah, let me know in the comment section if you were a fan of those Action Mans and what do you think about them. So continuing, as you can see, we have a really neat on the pack of the packaging over there. It's a very interesting that they really went into the design of going into Action Man. Of course, they did said that if you wanted to make him part of G.I. Joe, you could because you had the logo over there. Kind of a bit surprised that they didn't go, but again, this is the hat from from what is named Mainframe, so of course it was a easy shot and redo. So let's go on to the Wonder reveal. So of course, Wonder reveals, you figured out who it is. So of course, the first one is the course G.I. Joe Classified, or the Legacy Collection, if we can call it like that. And here is our Mountain Patrol. And God, this figure is kind of insane and not really well thought through. Again, Hasbro has a lot of stuff that they're doing, but nothing is thought through properly. So, of course, you will recognize that most of the gear comes from, of course, Snow Job. This is Snow Job. All of this here is also Snow Job. Then we have over here the taser, the pistol, the flare pistol, and over here we also have, of course, the stretcher from Lifeline, and of course over here we have a mask head, who's could be interesting depending on how they made the neck holes to fit in on the heads, because that's something. And then we have the helmet over here, and yeah, night vision. I don't know where you heard that, but most of the people who do the research don't have this kind of accessories. They mostly work at day, or they're going to be going down and there's going to be installing some very powerful lights. I mean, I live in Switzerland. I've already seen when they go and do these rescue missions. And of course, me being in the army, this is how we operated too, because I was part of the army department in case of this natural disaster. I would have been called in to go and help out. So we know that we have very powerful lights, and we're not going to go around night vision because that's not how it works. And I don't see people in this civilian life having this kind of equipment. So this one does not make sense at all. Now, hope these come off and that you can use them, because you did a special force in the Legacy, you did some other operators, and none of them have the night vision, but they have everything to attach. So yeah, this one, not very good. And for the next one, well, oh God, not really impressed either by this one either. A bit disappointing. Of course, it's a digital render. Sandstorm looks a bit weird. Maybe the first time we're going to have an animal that's not going to be great from our friends at Hasbro, but I really don't think this figure is this interesting. Of course, there's a nice little Easter egg, if you would put it in that way, for this mask, because this was the one who was given with the 12-inch one. You know, the ones who were based on the Action Man figures that were there, those figures that nobody wants and have no collectible value, because they were very cheap and pretty bad. So, of course, I'm looking at the figure. I understand where they came from. They did some modern version a bit of him compared to the one that came out back in the days. Of course, the Steve version 3. Well, I call it 2 because I don't really call a repaint a new version, but everybody can decide for themselves. But again, I must say that this figure is kind of meh. So I don't really understand what they're doing with it. I guess we will have to wait for next week to see it. But yeah, I'm extremely disappointed in this week's presentation. There is nothing there. I'm not saying that the two vehicles and Action Man are not great, but I mean, this is really something that did a bit of a poof and a flop, because really not finding this really interesting. And like I said, there's a lot of stuff that you could call out, and even if you're going to go into desert figures in this kind of environment, you're not going to be walking so much like this due to the fact that it's cold at night in the desert, and also you will try to wear some uniform to protect yourself from the sun, not to get some sunburn. So yeah, it's a bit of a funny way of doing it. I kind of like the figure itself, but yeah, there's a few little things, but I understand that they went on for a figure based on the original look, and again, yeah. For now, I'm going to reserve my judgment for these two characters, but seeing them, but personally for me, you need to hire somebody who has some military background or some rescue background to be able to fulfill a better way your collectors out there, because this is pretty bad. So let's go on to the craziest thing that I heard today. So I don't know if Hasbro has updated their stuff, but I don't believe so. So all three items are exclusive to Pulse USA, and they're saying for the rest of the world it is fan channels. Now, the big problem of the fan channels, they're nearly non-existent. I know that there's a shop in France who has a deal with Hasbro and gets some of the stuff, but he only gets partial stuff. So most of the people in Europe, of course, me being in Switzerland, I cannot order because they haven't done any changes to their website for me to be able to order. So that leaves us with 99% of the sales go through Hasbro Pulse Europe. And I really don't understand who's the fan channels. There might be one or two shops in England. I might think there could be Heo, who could be a fan channel because he might resell, but I remember when I was working with him, great guy, but he was very expensive for the product. So I don't know how that would be interesting for a shop to be able to, sorry about that, to compete with Hasbro Pulse. Again, this is really, again, poor handling on the behalf of Hasbro. So I have to clear up my throat a little bit. Let's continue. So, of course, same goes for this one over here. Also, same principle. Really don't understand why they're doing that. And, of course, Action Man trying to say the fan channels, but like I said, Hasbro clearly said that they were not going to resell it in any shops. So it would be curious to see how this is going to look. And, of course, maybe if it goes into fan channels and we be able to get it, maybe we're going to be able to take advantage of clearances like it happened in the US with Target, Walmart. Anyway, I'm going to give you my final thoughts about it. Here we go for my final thoughts about Yojo June 2026 Episode 2. Well, there was some cool stuff announced for pre-order. But except that, not much to go around with. Where is Mistress Armada? Where is the Ragged Duke? Where is Toxo Viper? Where is Tomb Raider a crossover with G.I. Joe? I understand that we have 2 more episodes, but here it was really lackluster, and frankly, it was just a filler. I think this is really disappointing. There's a lot more stuff around the corner, and I think they could have gone with a little bit more. I hope that the 2 next episodes are going to be way better, because this one was total garbage. And I understand that they have to talk about the comics that I didn't talk about in it. But again, if they decided to put one little part of the comics in it, knowing that maybe some people would not follow it, it does not make sense that they went on to this kind of way of doing it. So again, really disappointed by this one, and announcing the fact that we are getting through fans channels in Europe does not make sense, because I mean there's nearly nobody, like I said, who is there. I find this pretty mind-blowing that they decided to do it, but again, I guess it's a way to create fear of missing out, so a lot of people are going to rush, and the website's going to be not working that great again, and might be crashing, because all the American people are going to go crazy on it because of the fear of missing out, and they know that it's going to be an exclusive. They know that they're not going to finish up at Ross, Ollie's, or any other place. So yeah, that's going to be really fun pre-ordering the stuff starting at 7 p.m. for us in Europe, or of course that would be 1 p.m. in the US, of course, if you are a premium member. So let me know, do you agree, disagree with me? Did you think it was lackluster, yes or no? Let me know in the comment section, and let's start a conversation about our favorite hobby. So that will be it for Yojo June 2, episode 2, like I said. And if you like this kind of videos, please leave a like, share, comment in the section. If you have any suggestions, let me know also. If you want to go and check out my Facebook page, Instagram page, the links are in the description. And of course, I wish you have a fantastic day, and I will see you in my next video. Bye!